welcome back. I want to focus on the Lord in this video, the God of all creation, the God over you and me, and the God who exists whether you believe in him or not. Because that's one thing about us, is that we have our opinions and our ideas, and as human beings, we are all subject to being mistaken and being wrong. But God isn't. God knows it all. He made it all. He knows it all. And by his foreknowledge, he acts ahead of the game. Can you imagine trying to play chess with a God who knows the outcome of the game, who knows your move before you make it, who's able to think through everything that needs to be thought through and provide for every outcome? That's the unbeatable computer, if you will. The thing that is unable to lose to you. That's the God that I want to talk to you about. We are living in an age in which we have decided that God is irrelevant, that he doesn't move, that all of his actions are in the past, if he ever acted in that way in the first place. And we have a tendency to look at the book that he left us with an idea that maybe somehow a lot of this is myth and mysticism and just ignorance from people who didn't understand the miraculous nature of those naturally occurring things that somehow or other Jesus, if he existed, was like cooperating with in order to get people to think he was this miracle worker and so on. And all of that's nonsense. The book is clear. God is capable of handling us, and he's able to preserve his word, and he's able to give it to us in a way that makes sense to us and it's complete for us. And as a result, that God who plays chess in a way that you can't possibly begin to compete with has left you some instructions and says, if you'll cooperate with these things, we're going to make some serious progress in your life. There's going to be some benefits to you. And there are people who focus on the material benefits of cooperating with God, and there are some. Are they guarantees? Are they things like, here's the secret to life and you're going to get this and so on? Actually, you know what? This is where your imagination becomes a problem. Because when you imagine yourself to be more powerful than God, when you imagine your access to spirituality to be better than, being in submission to a book or a idea that God had something to say about your spirituality, and as a result you are able to go your own way and do your own thing and invent your own reality and create your own universe, and whatever it is that you live in is what you project out of your own mind. And these are popular ideas right now. They're just very deadly ideas. They're very wrong ideas. They're the same kind of ideas that Satan presented to Adam and Eve in the garden. That you're going to be as gods. You're going to be able to do things that most people don't believe in. Well, there's a reason that most people don't believe in those people who have been given insight by God and given a rule book to follow. Now, people will say, well, you just said a rule book. Do you mean that, spiritual life is dependent on your obedience? No, your spiritual life is not. Your spiritual life is dependent on your belief. It is faith that leads to salvation. Why? Because God is sufficient. And I've heard it argued that, it's faith plus works by some people. No, it isn't. It's not. Paul says very clearly, in Romans, he says that if it's of faith, it's not of works, and if it's of works, it's not of faith. And so he very clearly makes a distinction. And it's not what we do, and it's not the things that we do that save us, but what happens is that salvation in and of itself gives us power to do what we could not do without salvation. And so the works come naturally simply because we love God and want to do what he says. And before we had God's salvation in our life, it was virtually impossible for us to actually do anything. And now that it is possible for us to do some things, we can do some things that we know please God. And that, like any marriage, would mean that, once you're married, you don't go and say, tell me, dear, what do you hate to eat? And that's what I'm going to make for dinner. That's not a really good idea to go on in a relationship. And the issue with God is he wants a relationship with us. And so he's asking us to do certain things, but it's not because he'll stop loving us if we don't. And it's not that he can't save us if we don't. He has made that decision to become involved in a relationship. And he's asked us, his sovereignty, by the way, created choice. So I'm not a hardliner in the sense that, God predetermines everybody's destiny. God foreknows everybody's destiny and he acts accordingly. It's like that chess game, right? But the problem we have in our culture is that we limit God to our logic. We think God can't operate outside of the box that I create for him. Well, God is really good at getting out of boxes. And so if his sovereignty is that he wanted to make choice, and therefore he gives us the option to choose a lot of things in the scripture. He says, even in the Old Testament, before salvation was a practical reality in the timeline for us, God says that faith itself was given to Abraham as righteousness and so on. So believing God, just choosing to believe that God is God and that what he says matters is a huge thing, and it helps us in our walk. It helps us understand what to do. However, going on from there, the issue of salvation is not dependent on your works. It's dependent on whether you choose to believe that God is God, that he has said what he has said, that he's serious about what he said. And of course, that brings us face to face with our idol, which is science. And we've held this idol up and we've said, okay, we're going to worship science. The problem with science is that it has no conclusions. It has a lot of questions. That's the basis of science, is to ask the questions. And when you're no longer allowed to ask questions of science, it has become a god. It has not, and it does not do well, because the science keeps changing. As our knowledge grows, our science grows. And we are learning at a phenomenal pace. We're learning many things that at a speed that has never been precedented in all of human history. We have technology that helps. We have other things. And all of this means that we have faith in something we don't even know what it will be. This is just wrong. It's just wrong. Anyway, my encouragement to you is to seek out the God who does know, the God who has it all, who knows all of the science because he created all of the principles by which it works. And listen to him and realize this, that he's coming back to judge the world. And that if you're found in sin, which means that it's not forgiven, and only Christ has that capacity to forgive. I know because of my heritage and my Jewish background that there are people who believe in forgiveness for other reasons. There are people who believe in merit. There are people who believe in your works, what you do. And this is from my Catholic friends, from my Jewish friends, from most of the people who come out with these conclusions, do not really believe in grace. Grace is an interesting word. And yet, grace is given to us through faith. And so that's the issue. It's not given to us through works. Never has been, never will. As Ephesians says, for by grace are you saved through faith, not of yourselves. It is a gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. So we don't have a boast in our goodness. Not a good person, and neither are you. God knows, and he loves you anyway, and he's provided a way of escape. And it is a call back to that God of the universe, the God who wants a relationship with you and asks you to choose that relationship with him. And if not, he won't force you, but you have to realize that a eternity, which is a possibility for you, will be spent either with him or without him. And however you view hell, and I don't make any firm judgments on one way or the other on hell. I know that it's talked about. I know that it's real. As to what its nature will be, I haven't never been there. Don't plan to go. So I can't comment. But that's another discussion for another day. And I just don't want you to go there. I want you to be with him because that's his desire for you. Love ya. We'll see you later. Bye.